This is a perfect example of when you're going to need exposure compensation, in this case actually negative exposure compensation. What we're trying to photograph here is a black object on a black background. So what your camera is naturally going to do in either the priority modes, aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode, is make it that 18% gray, that middle gray tone. That's what the meter is supposed to do. But in this case, because we know, in fact, that our object is black, it is not gray, we want to make sure that it's getting the proper exposure. So to do that, we need to apply exposure compensation. So to do that, we're going to press down on the little plus minus button, and we're going to rotate it down. At 1, let's look and see. It's closer, but it's still a bit gray. Let's try all the way down to -2. Might be a little bit darker than what we actually were looking for. So what we do, probably just tweak it there, and now we're right about perfect. That's a good representation of what our object actually looks like. You'll know that you went in the right direction because it'll start to look right. If you went in the positive direction, it'll just look grayer and grayer. And that's not quite what we're looking for. We are looking for that true coloration so that it was in the range of an actual black object there. Now, just a reminder, as you do exposure compensation, it is not doing any post-processing at all in your camera of making it brighter or darker, but rather you are telling your camera that no, you don't want it on that middle gray tone. You're telling it that it either needs to be lighter or darker than that. So in the case of the dark object, we're telling it no, in fact, camera, you need to meter for something that is darker. That is what it's doing, and then it's changing the settings to reflect that. It is not then going and actually just doing a processing to make the image lighter or darker. In this situation, we're now trying to photograph an object that is primarily white. So in this case, you'll notice though, when it is first metering it, how the camera, when it's in either aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode, it is picking to make it a gray tone instead of a white tone. Well, this is because, again, the light meter is trying to zero it out at that middle gray tone. And that's great for a lot of situations, but when we're taking a picture of an object that's actually white, we need to tell our camera, no camera, we don't want that middle gray tone. We actually want it to be a positive tone. We actually want to tell it that we need exposure compensation and make it to be lighter than that middle gray tone. We need to tell our camera, no, actually, we want it to be white. So to do that, what we do is we hold down our plus minus button, and I'm going to change it then, the setting of the exposure compensation from 0 to first, let's see it at 1 stop higher. We're getting closer, but it's still pretty gray. Let's try it all the way at +2. There we go. Now at +2, we actually have it showing up as white. This is exactly what we want in this situation. And again, to remember, this is not doing anything in post-processing or anything like that at all. What it is in fact doing is it's just recalibrating your light meter to tell your camera when picking different settings, it in fact needs to be picking settings that allow your exposure to be brighter than that typical middle gray that it is metering for.